Welcome to the Ultimate Fancast, where fans are the star of the show. Each week, we explore the epic co-created Battle Bunnies franchise from legendary artists Frank and Krista Linatra and the team at Junkbox Studios. Ultimate fans join BBS, Lord L, and Brian as they dive deep into the extraordinary world of the Battle Bunnies. Plus, we'll be your guides and take you backstage with the creators and actors who are captivating family audiences worldwide. Are you ready to meet this week's Ultimate Fan? It's time to fan up and enjoy the show. Welcome back to another show in our summer update series. This one's a special one for you, especially if you are a holder and you want to name your bunnies and you want to write a backstory, because that's right. We're diving in and we're going to talk today about the grimoire. Now, before I jump in, I just wanted to talk really quickly. I hope everybody saw this. Did you see this new PFP that they've created? This is so exciting. I love this icon, this PFP for the Scyther Chronicles on Scyther TSG, at Scyther TSG on Twitter. So make sure you get out there. Okay, this is the summer series on the grimoire is for stories, and I'm going to do some fantastic tales. All right, so have you ever wondered like what it takes to get into the game, to be a character inside the Scyther Chronicles? Or maybe how you get into the book series? Like how did those individuals that showed up in the Unlikely Spartan, how did they get into the book? Or if you've been to the NFT collection, how do you get your bunny or your dragon named? Like you see these here. How do you get into the NFTs? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about where it all starts. And it starts right here by getting into the grimoire. And the grimoire is on Discord at the Battle Bunnies. So if you're new to the community and you're not familiar with us, go to the Battle Bunnies inside of Discord, and that will give you initially kind of an onboarding where you can pick your class, whether you're a pirate, a Spartan, or whatever. Like there's 6 different classes that you can choose from. And that'll start revealing more and more stuff. Krista's done an excellent job of building out our Discord. But one of the things inside the Discord is the grimoire. And that's what the bunny tales are inside of that. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is like all the stories in the grimoire were created by members of the community and the founders, Krista, Mike, John, or Frank. And that's what we're going to talk about. So I want to introduce you to one of our community members. He has been around since before the Battle Bunnies. He's a tattoo artist, and his name is Dhug. So Dhug and I met last year in October at Richmond. He's there with his dog, Bill Danger. And if you don't know this, Bill and he are out on an adventure to Alaska. Adventures of Bill Danger on Instagram. I recommend it if you want to follow along with their drive. It is so beautiful, the stuff they're seeing. But anyways, he was also episode 25 of the Ultimate Fancast. If you didn't catch it, go back and listen to that episode. It was only 10 or 15 episodes ago. Actually, almost 20 episodes ago. Wow, man, time flies. So Dhug is a community member. He is a member inside of our community, and he's also inside the TCG, and he's one of the very powerful cards inside the TCG. Well, that just didn't happen by accident. And I'm going to walk you through that. I'm going to walk you through, just one potential way of making it into the game, creating a backstory and naming a character. And that's what we're going to go through today. All right. So originally Dhug started out as a backstory for Charles Bartholomew, AKA Dhug Life. And you see that here, and you can see it inside of Discord for his PFP, which is now we know as Dhug. And that's one awesome bunny with the toxic skin, the world's best Viking mug, and the banana sword. And I think it's just hilarious because, he's holding a world's best Viking, but that's what a Viking would do. A Viking would snatch that mug and then use it because they just, sometimes they're a little irreverent. Well, anyways, we're going to talk about getting into the game by naming your bunnies and writing their backstory. So let's just jump into it. All right. So if you're out on Discord under the Series 1 news, Krista has created this post that talks about how to name your characters. And there's a couple things on here, and I won't read everything, but if you want to be added to the novels, the trading card game, be part of the future IP, animations, any of that stuff, it all starts by creating a character inside the community. And you can go to this form, and and you can do this for your light dragons too. It's just not for your battle bunnies or your Spartans. So do that. Like, go to this on Discord, go to Series 1 News, scroll up a little bit. You're going to see this. She's giving you some resources here, which we're not going to get in today, but like, there's a medieval name generator, there's a dragon name generator, and then there's some forms that you can fill out. One's a character creation guide, which we are going to go through. And then there's also a release form where you can release that to be used for the future. So first, we're going to do this. We're going to jump into Bunny Tales. But again, if you're not on Discord yet, go to the Battle Bunnies, discord.gg/the Battle Bunnies. But to go from NFT to backstory to character to grimoire to the book, it all takes a process, and that's what we're doing today. So I did a little bit of analysis. I come from the world of sales and marketing operations in my past life, where I led that for some big companies. And I like to look at like the overall, kind of data, like decision-making, like what's happening. So for Battle Bunnies, we've got a little over 1,132. That does not include the 300 Spartans that I'll talk about later, but only about 8% of them have names. For the 676 Ghost Bunnies, we're talking about 2.7% and 6.5% for the Light Dragons. So there's still a lot of opportunity if you're a holder to create and name your bunnies. Not you're actually physically creating, but creating a story for them. And if you look at them broken down by the different classes within the Battle Bunnies, you see here we've got about 28 Vikings, 14 Pirates, 22 Shamans, 23 Valkyries, 4 Sorcerers, 15 Spartans. Like, small percentages of them have been named. And these are the ones that, I'm not talking about the ones that have a name from the Ultimate Heroes. You can see those numbers down in gray at the bottom. There's a few more. But for the most part, the ones with backstories, still a lot of opportunity. There's especially a lot of opportunity if you hold a sorcerer, which I've only got one. So I can add one to that list when I finally name and write a backstory for the sorcerer. So get out there, folks, do it. And a few weeks ago, Krista put a post out there talking about we only have 14 Vikings. There are a ton of Viking bunnies, but they need them for the cards for the TCG. So there's a lot of opportunity to get into the TCG, to get into the novel, because at the time there was only 14 Vikings that had been named. Another 14 had been named since and added to that, but still a lot more than that. There's lots and lots of cards. There's going to be lots of stories written in the future. So doesn't guarantee that you will, but definitely get out there and do it. So follow this process that we're going to go through and get into the collection. And maybe you'll see, or you'll get to play with your character that you have the NFT for in a game in the future. All right, so let's go back to just a little bit of the analysis. And you see on the Ghost Bunnies, there's so few of them. 2.7% have been named. So lots and lots of opportunity there. I named my Night Hopper. He's my Spartan Ghost Bunny. I know there's only 22 of those, but I was the first one to name one of the bunnies because he's my PFP inside the community. And I did have a story in mind for him about like what his role is within the ghost. So I created it and put it out in the grimoire. You can do that too. With the Light Dragons, a little more at 6.5%. But again, not a lot of stories written about them. Just, you don't have to put the story with it, but you can certainly, and I'll show that in a minute, like what it looks like to just put a name and then, story to be added in the future, that kind of stuff. If you want to add your name for that individual, but again, not a lot. One of the trends that I've noticed though, when I look across all of these is like 4.9% for the sorcerers, 3.6 for the ghost. That's kind of on par with the others, but only 2.4%. So sorcerer owners, I know the decks for the TCG have not started working on the ones for the sorcerers yet. So that'll probably be sometime in 2025, but there's definitely an opportunity to do some naming there because no one is naming their sorcerers. That's a common theme across them. I need to do a better job with mine. I definitely have some sorcerer light dragons, so I will be doing that. And that, that's just a good thing to do. One other thing, like when you look at the community writers, like the people that have written, we've got 39 unique writers out there. These are the top 20. You see Miss Flyerfly at the top with 57 of her dragons and bunnies in the grimoire. She's more than double any one of us. Like even Peak View at 25, she's got twice as many as Peak View, which 25, that's a great start on anybody who has a collection with more than 25 that are doing that. Christikins at 15, myself with 14, Silly Girl at 12, Disco Fur at 9, BBS 8, Drywall 7. You can read all these, but it's awesome. We've got, multiple people with multiple names and stories. I'm doing a thing I call Story Saturdays, where Saturdays I'm trying to add a new story to the grimoire from one of my characters. So it's going to take me a while if I continue to work at that pace. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk you through the process of going from this, where you don't have the name, like hello, my name is, to actually naming a bunny. And the first one we're going to talk about is this guy. What is his story? Like, this is a battle bunny that I picked up by turning in 1,500 of my Dark Scyther about a week ago. And so he just, like, there's a story in there. Like, if you look at him, there's definitely a story. Well, what's better than one? How about two? That's the bonus, is we're actually going to do two, because I had another one in my collection that looked a lot like him. And I think both of these guys have a story, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to do that together. So there are a number of ways to do that, but this is kind of the main process that Krista was talking about, like creating, posting, and providing consent. If you do those three things, checked all the boxes. And that's good. That's what we want, is we want to do that. So you do have options when you're creating the character. You can use the character creation guide that the team has put together. That's probably, the easiest. Maybe ChatGPT. That's also what I'm going to talk about here in the middle. And then the other is to start from a blank page, like I do a lot of times. And then I will use ChatGPT to help me kind of refine it, kind of get from a blank page to get started. And then I will ultimately kind of rewrite it and make it into the story that I want. But there's lots of ways to kind of go about it. So you've got options. This guy here on the right, with the brave fur face, definite homage to it's a nod to the Braveheart movies with Mel Gibson from, I think, either the late 80s, early 90s, that kind of time frame. Totally love it. Love the fact that we have that nod to that show here with this warrior. So when I was looking at this guy, I thought, well, not that guy, but one of those guys. I was like, this guy looks a lot like Ogre, right? Like from Revenge of the Nerds. So I think, this dude's a bad bunny. So I created a backstory, or I'm going to create with you the backstory for Ogre. So we're being props to Donald Gibb, the character, the actor who played Ogre. We need to put a story together for Ogre, and we need to get him in the grimoire. And then for the other one, Jack Elam is the actor, and he played Dr. Nicholas Van Helsing in the Cannonball Run from the 80s. And I was just a kid back then, but man, that character was so just burned into my brain, like his look and everything like that. When I saw this bunny, I was like, oh, that is definitely Elam. So we're going to do a story for Ogre and for Elam, and hopefully he'll enjoy this process with me, and we can do that. So let's jump into it. So, okay. So I mentioned it before, we have the character creation guide, and that's what we're going to do for Elam. The other one is for Ogre, and I'm going to do that because I've already done that here in ChatGPT. I'm not going to make you watch me type in stuff and do that thing. I'm just going to kind of explain what I did, and hopefully that's helpful. Same here with the character creation guide. I've already filled it in. I'm not going to go through it, but we'll talk through kind of some of the things that's required. Like, it asks you for who you think it is, name. Again, then those name generators are out there. You can also use ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other, chat bot type of things to ask questions, get help with stuff. If you want some naming things, there's all kinds of things you can Google. If you want to keep it to Old Norse or, whatever. But I came up with the name Elam. I like Elam because, Elam reminds me of Jack Elam, and, Elam was a warrior in the Bible. So that was why I came up with Elam. He's number 489. He's a Viking. And, I basically just described what he's like. That's what they're asking for here. What does he look like? He's got crazy eyes, wears the battle paint of brave fur, and he carries rabbit's foot in his right hand, has the shielded Nyx in his left, and he's got the Viking helmet. I can't spell, so I'll have that fix it for me. So what special powers does he have? Well, he likes to dabble in healing elixirs, and that kind of brings in who Dr. Van Helsing was from Cannonball Run. And he has these powers, can be a little bit funny because he never trained for anyone. So him mixing elixirs and doing that kind of stuff kind of fits with Dr. Van Helsing from Cannonball Run. So what's he like? He's a Viking with a blend of humor and heroism. What does he like and dislike? Well, he likes to create elixirs for fun. and other things. And then he and his friends like to try them out. And sometimes they don't necessarily go the way things are planned. So he definitely has a family. They have unique interests. He follows in his father's footsteps, but he's like his mother and likes to joke and have fun. He definitely has friends. His friend is Ogre, and Ogre is a big bunny who does not always make the best decisions. He and Ogre can get into trouble, especially when they mix Elam's elixirs into the fun. And then where do they live? They live in Imaginic Falls, and I just give a little bit of description. Got some help from ChatGPT on how to describe Imaginic Falls. And then what's one of his favorite memories? I talk about just one of the times that he went exploring in Imaginic Falls with his sister here. What kind of dreams and goals does he have? He wants to be a hero, like anybody else. He dreams of being a hero someday, but he also, wants to use his interest in elixirs to be a master healer at some point. So what are his weaknesses? Well, he's a little eccentric, just like Dr. Van Helsing. And that can sometimes make people underestimate him. He's got some self-doubt, that kind of stuff. And he sometimes doesn't approach situations the most serious. So that sometimes can hurt him because people think that, he's just, he's not serious and so forth. So that can kind of help, work against him. What challenges does he face? Well, he's like anybody else. He's trying to gain the respect of his friends and family. And because he's a little bit eccentric and he's got to go out and battle enemies and he tries to be funny and not serious all the time, that can kind of get in the way of things. So he's got to just work through those things and continue to create his elixirs. And then was there any special moments? Well, I created another character, Viler. And he's a mouse from Meridia, and he was out exploring in the forest and came across a tiny amulet that was glowing buried beneath an ancient tree. When he picked it up, that's where he met Viler. He learned that, it can amplify the wearer's inner strengths and guide them through on their destined path. So these two, strike up a friendship, that kind of thing. And the last question was like, anything else to add? Well, he likes to make punch out of thunder plums and moonshade berries, which is delish. So that's a yummy concoction that he likes to make there in Imaginic Falls. And that's one of his favorite things to do. It's a concoction that he's created, and he adds some other stuff to make it into an elixir. So after you do all that stuff, read through the thing that talks about the IP and ownership and all that stuff. Just read through this. It talks to that. Again, we're contributors. We're not owners of the IP of the Battle Bunnies. We're just, community contributors. And that's just kind of what it is explaining there. So when I'm done, I hit submit form, and that's going to, submit that form. And then I've got opportunities to edit my response or submit another one. But I think that's all we need to do. And they're going to email it to me to do that. Now I'm going to talk to you about ChatGPT because that character creation guide is going to be emailed to us, and we got to do something with it before we put it into the grimoire because it's not in story format, none of that stuff. So we can take that information, we can put it into a blank Word document or a Google document and just, refine it, write the story because we've gone through those prompts, been asked those questions. Now we kind of form it into a story, or we can make it a little easier for ourselves and go over to ChatGPT and add that information and put it in there. I've already done that for Elam. I'm not going to walk you through that process. I will just add that later and you'll be able to see that in the grimoire, his story. But next I want to talk about if you just started out in ChatGPT, and I do have the upgraded version of ChatGPT, so I don't know if that changes anything, but you can start with a prompt. And first prompt I did was I asked, tell me about the Revenge of the Nerds ogre character. What's his story arc? And it goes through here and it gives me his internal and external struggles, talks about his character and, how he progresses. And then I asked, because again, he wasn't just an actor for one thing. He was in lots of things. I liked him in Bloodsport. I saw him on Night Court, he's memorable. Donald Gibb is memorable. And I, from my childhood, I remember Revenge of the Nerds and definitely remember Bloodsport and the Kumite. So I was like, oh, let's combine both of those in his backstory. And that's what we're doing here is what's his external story arc and internal story arc. So I just ask a prompt, what is the story arc of the character Rage Action played by Donald Gibb in Bloodsport? How would you summarize them both externally and internally? Just just give me some information on the character's, journey. Like, and I've done a lot of writing, so that's just kind of a prompt that I used here to get me some information. And then what I did, because ChatGPT doesn't know a lot about Kanengard, is I, went out to the website, took the information about the bunny lore, um, who the different classes are and stuff like that. Just wanted to give it some information so that when it came back with a response, I wanted to talk about the lands and that kind of stuff, because, it just makes it a lot easier. And then I tell it a little bit in my prompt here that I'm working on a character backstory for the Battle Bunnies collection that has a crazed expression that reminds me a lot of Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds with his lazy eye. The Battle Bunny is a Viking. I want to pay homage to Ogre by naming him Ogre. Attached is the background on the Battle Bunnies. Can you help me intertwine the Ogre story arc with Ray Jackson from Bloodsport's characters to create a backstory for the Ogre Viking Battle Bunny? So what I'm doing there is I'm just saying, hey, I don't want this to be vanilla. I want something that, like, not only takes the character name that I named it after, but also some stories that he's been in. And we're going to have some fun with that. So we're going to mix those two stories of the character story arcs into our Battle Bunny. And we're going to come out with like some different things. And that's what you see here is ChatGPT comes back and gives me, just kind of a breakdown, like what does he look like? What is his early life, that kind of stuff. And I wasn't happy with that. So, I played around. I was like, well, we don't really give his real name. Is that one of those things that we want to, add to this? And I was like, yeah, I don't really like that. It gave me some answers. And I was like, give me some stuff with J.R.R. Tolkien inspired style. And that's what he does here. The tale of Ogre, the Battle Bunny. In the age-old lands of Kanengard, where the Scyther waters flowed like liquid starlight, there lived a warrior known to all as Ogre. See how awesome that is? Like when you tell it and give it some instructions and give it like a style and that kind of stuff, you get something more than just like what ChatGPT will spit out, which is, it all sounds the same. So just have some fun with it. Just like try to play around with it. It's an amazing tool if you use it and you don't like the things that you're getting. I played around. I was like, oh, well, George R.R. Martin style. Like, what does that look like if you do it in his style? Or what is it like if you do it in J.K. Rowling's, style of writing, that kind of stuff? And how do they differ? And you can do any of those things and you can have fun with it. It's, and then you can take this and then you can make it original. You can take it out of there. You can put it into something like this and then write your backstory. Like, what is their backstory? I do this where I start from a blank screen. And that's a lot harder, but I always have fun too, where I, kind of take it back and I'm like, okay, I'll put it into ChatGPT and see if they can make it better, or, that kind of stuff. Sometimes I like the changes. Sometimes I don't. It just depends, but it doesn't take very long to create this. You just ask it a few questions, and here what I've done is the tale of Ogre, the Viking Bunny. I used Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. So it talks about that, kind of the origins and the call to adventure and that kind of stuff. It's similar to the stuff above here, but it's just written a little bit better, and talks about he's, going from, he's got to cross through this threshold, and, you've got all this contrasting stuff that's happening in the story. Then, he meets a mentor, Zeno, who's one of my Spartans that I haven't actually put the naming stuff on there, but, it's like I've added people into this so that I could put something out there. So now that we've done all that, now what we do is we come out here to Discord. And let me just enlarge this, make sure you got the full screen effect. And then we go in here to the Grimoire. It's here just under Ask Moonbeam. Got the bunny tails. And then we go in here and we're going to create a new post. So we click on this button up here to the right. It says new post. And our character is Ogre. And their token ID is 402. And then we just add in the picture, which I'm not going to have you watch the whole thing. Okay, we add the picture. You see that now right here in the upper right-hand corner. And then next, we're going to just add in the story that we wrote. Okay, now that we've dropped our story into the Grimoire, we've got the name, the number. I went ahead and added another picture to show kind of the character intake. So if anybody was looking at, they see why, I've got some tie-ins to Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds and Bloodsport into this story. One of the things that I want to remind you of is that you don't have unlimited characters. So your story has to be brief. I got told a long time ago to be brief, be bright, and be gone. And I haven't done that with this episode. And I apologize that I took probably a little longer than the 20 minutes that I thought it would take, but hopefully you find it valuable. But when you got it all set up and ready to go, we're just going to click post. and it's going to show up in the grimoire. And it's down here. We got ogre number 402. People can go down here and see this. If they want to click on this, they can learn a little bit more about that kind of stuff. But now it's in the grimoire. Now you can kind of see what I put out there. And now I can go in and I can create the next post. I can go in and do Elam number 489. And then I can add in the picture. Then finally, we post the second one. So now we have both Elam and Ogre in the grimoire. And you see someone's already started to like that. So that's always a good sign. Let's hope that others get to read it. But it looks like Queen Christikins has checked out the story on Ogre, the Viking, and hopefully, get a thumbs up on that or something, so that's cool. So now that you've done the hard work, you've used the different options to come up with your character, you're pretty much done. Like there's after you posted it, now it's pretty much done. And then like I created here was just something that, kind of gave my inspiration to help others think about like, oh, like that's how he came up with Ogre's name, or that's how he came up with Elam's name. But after you've done all that, maybe someday you could show up in the Scyther Chronicles or in one of the future books. Or if you're like Dhug, you make it onto a coffee mug. So that, there are many, many things that could end up happening if you go ahead and name and create a backstory for your character. They could, use you. We could use you. The Battle Bunnies could use you. Future stories, all that stuff. And it's just fun. I had fun putting this all together. So, well, Ultimate fans, hopefully you enjoyed the little walkthrough that I did using the different forms, the character creation guide, or using ChatGPT. I obviously wasn't going to walk you through my process of just going from a blank sheet of paper, but that comes with practice. That comes with writing. You'll have your ideas. You'll maybe keep a list of names that you'd like to use for your different bunnies or dragons, and start writing them down or thinking about ways that you can integrate the stories like I did with Ogre and Elam and that kind of stuff. And you can see that like thinking about bigger, like what is the ultimate story? Nothing guarantees that they'll make it into the TCG. Nothing guarantees that they'll make it into a book or an animation someday. But the great part is that they will make it onto your NFT. That name will be out there and it'll be associated with your NFT and it'll live with it as long as it's out there. So hopefully that you learned something. Give us a like, thumbs up, all that stuff for the Fancast. We will rejoin our regular formatting where you won't have just Brian. You'll have Luke and you'll have BBS or Lord L and BBS. Come back with you being the star of the show, which I'm excited for, starting in August. And then we can bring you on. We can talk about bunnies you've named, light dragons you've named, any of the things, stories you've written, that kind of stuff. They'll make it into the game, name that bunny, and all kinds of other stuff. So all these different things can work together. And we just appreciate you and for watching our show. And we hope that you have a great rest of your summer. Thank you for joining us today, Ultimate Fan. BBS, Lord L, and Brian, that's me, do hope you enjoyed today's program as much as we did, where Ultimate fans like you are the stars of the show. We'd be honored to have you join us on a future episode where you can share your story and love of the Battle Bunnies with this encouraging community. It would be the greatest compliment if you shared something you love about the Battle Bunnies on your favorite social platform today like X, Facebook, or Instagram and tagged us. Or simply use hashtag UltimateFancast so we can recognize and celebrate with you and other super fans by sharing your post. Bonus points if you do both and use an image of one of your favorite Battle Bunnies or a screenshot of this episode. We know you share, like, and comment because you care about our fellow Ultimate fans as much as we do. Please leave comments too to let us know how we can make this the greatest fan experience for the Battle Bunnies community. This podcast is sponsored by Hairstream Media, your bunnies all the time streaming service. Okay, not really. It is just us fans like you giving some of our time to support other fans like you. Join us over in the Battle Bunnies community and Discord to continue the fun. We hope you tune in with us each week, so make it easy. Subscribe now. We'll be here to keep you hopping when you need us.